everyone. It is Monday night, and you are at the Physicist and Philosopher Hour. The physicist is Dr. Claudia Albers, and I am the philosopher, Wayne Steiger. So how are you doing, Claudia?
I'm well, thank you.
Yep.
Very busy writing.
I saw that.
I actually wanted to put my book together, but then I figured out I still had a few loose ends that I had to figure out before I do that.
Cool.
Before I put the books together. And one of the things is vortices, these cloud vortices and the water vortices. So I've just about finished putting it all together.
Cool.
And it's all about energy levels. Gravity is quantized. And it's amazing that vortices form because gravity is quantized. There's no water in the middle because it's not allowed. It's not an allowed energy level, just like you have in atoms.
So, by the way, I just want to say hello to everyone. There's 150 here and more coming in. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, moderators. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I think you'll find that tonight's going to be a good hour. So, speaking of vortices, then, the thing that I don't understand is as our solar system traverses through space, and if each planet, our sun, our Earth, are moving through the void of space, the sun, I think, is 480,000 miles an hour, the Earth 167,000 miles an hour. What I don't understand, Claudia, wouldn't that produce a vortex behind the object as it's hurtling through space?
Well, I guess it is in a way it's a vortex because orbits are basically flat vortices. But they stay at the same horizontal distance to the sun, but it is a vortex in that it's all moving through space, but it's a flat vortex, just like the vortex that you have around a galaxy. It looks like it's all at the same level, basically. And the reason for that is because all the planets come from the star. They are part of a star. They contain inside them a piece of the star. Because what happened was the star ejected part of its core, and that became a planet. And the same thing happens with a galaxy. The galactic core ejects a part of itself. It becomes the nebula, the globular clusters, which then break up into individual stars. So each of the individual stars have one piece of that galactic nucleus inside them. They all belong together. It's just a breaking up of something large into smaller pieces.
So I don't connect the vortices, because the way I see it is that we have these objects all moving at incredible speeds through space.
Yes.
And, we can see the planets, we see it on a plane, but what I don't understand is that
what you have is things that are moving this way and are moving this way. In this direction, so they're moving like this and moving at the same time. So our mind finds it difficult to think of the two motions at the same time. So what we do is we freeze them for a moment and let them move like that to look at that motion. And then we freeze them like this and we see the motion like that. That's all it is. It's two motions in one.
No, I can see that, but it's still, my mind is still trying to say, well, if I have a flat plane and let's say I have 6 objects and each object is moving at a different rate of speed, then how do they stay in a concentric orbit?
Well, they're moving at a different speed tangentially in the circle. They're moving in a different speed. But in this direction, they're all moving at the same speed.
Okay, so
the sun's moving and the planet's moving in this direction. They're both moving in this at the same speed because they are connected. In other words, it's another piece of the sun that just separated from the sun. It moved down here, and now they're moving together like that, even though this one is also orbiting the sun.
Someone's asking, why did they remove all the science concerning energetics? I don't know.
Energetics.
What Tesla was working on.
You know, I haven't looked too deeply into what Tesla was doing. You know, I basically came up with my own theories, but as far as I know, he was thinking in terms of electric currents, electric fields, which is part of the taboo subjects that we often not allowed to get into. Because he was getting into free energy, how to get free energy, how to get it from the earth, how to get it from the air. And I've never really focused on that.
Well, you can do it. It's very easy to do it. You know, he came to Colorado to finalize his experiments. And what he did in Colorado Springs, it has since been unfortunately taken down, but we know he proved that you can actually generate electricity right from the earth. You don't need anything. All you need is basically a coil, and you need the connecting, which is typically a copper rod that would go in. So, yeah, it's just very interesting. We're seeing science just expand and contradict itself.
Yeah, the thing is, you have to realize that most of the theories that we have are illogical. And the moment you try to make two things connect, and you cannot connect them, that they seem contradictory, then you know there's a problem there. That there is something there that does not agree with how the universe works. And so you'll find a contradiction with observation. Yeah. And the thing is, what I'm working on, I see gravity and the electric interaction being more and more aligned. And I think my understanding will eventually lead me to the point where I will be able to see exactly how to get free energy. But at the moment, I'm just focusing on understanding how the universe works. Let's put it that way.
As so many of us are. It is.
Because you have to understand it from first principles. And I have to make sure that I build it up so that it's always consistent and logical.
Makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah. So I need to, wow.
Yeah, I thought that we just kind of go through a couple things. Our Earth is changing. You know, they came out, and I did not pull the story up, but it came out again yesterday that particularly mariners are having a very difficult time adjusting for this continued rapid, all I can say, magnetic North Pole. It is moving, and it's apparently moving fast. Here is something I thought. Bangkok, you can see the pollution levels. It's really,
Is that really pollution? Because that looks very pink to me. To me, it looks like pink fog. And I know exactly where pink fog comes from. It comes from the Planet X objects that are affecting our planet. So basically,
well, you know what I found interesting here, Claudia, was that they're actually using chemicals to start rainfall, and water cannons will now be on top of the skyscrapers to artificially began to collect the molecules, not the molecules, the what's the word I'm looking for? The particulate matter in the air.
Yeah, well, that's Planet X dust and debris that's coming in all the time. See, they're always coming up with different excuses for why there's so much dust on our planet. Why are clouds that are made of water suspended in the atmosphere? They still haven't explained that one either.
Got a lot of explaining to do. I thought this one was just odd that the eels in the Thames River, well, they are apparently buzzing because of the amount of cocaine that is apparently being flushed in the London sewer system.
Oh, really? And how did they find that out? Did they find cocaine inside?
Oh, yeah, literally. Their bodies, you're ingesting cocaine. What I want to know, Londoners, how much cocaine are you guys flushing down the toilet?
Yeah, that sounds very strange to tell.
Very, very odd.
It's possible that, I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at the data myself. So I would think, without looking at the data, I'd take it with a pinch of salt because you know what they are doing? They are ionizing our atmosphere. The chemtrails are off the charts. And then they are ionizing them. So, that means that the poor eels are in an environment that is more ionizable. So it's not surprising. The electric animals, fish, that they could be affected by that.
Well, these apparently are stoned. I just wonder if you could eat eels that have ingested that amount of cocaine. I don't know. That's weird.
Definitely would affect a human being.
Yeah, I would think
if the eels are being affected by the amount of cocaine in their bodies, I'm sure a human being would be affected by eating the eels.
Anyway, this is Professor Loeb. He was the one professor from Harvard, and he put out, and I actually had one of our viewers send this to me, remarkable paper he wrote here in why he stands behind his belief, his scientific opinion, I guess, that what we saw here, I'm actually reaching out to him, Claudia, because as he wrote in this, the only thing he could look at this is that we have been visited.
Well, it definitely does not look natural. It looks like a starship. I mean, you can just look at it and see it. How would a rock in that shape remain in that shape? It doesn't look natural. Definitely.
What's interesting, because we're so fed on Hollywood that we fail to understand that most likely you would not have an artificial machine, ship built for intergalactic travel. You would most likely have something like this, so it could actually penetrate through space, meteorite hits, etc., radiation. I mean, you think about it, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but that shape is so artificial. I mean, if they were doing that, I'm sure I would choose a more spherical object, not one in that particular shape. But that looks so artificial. It's as if it was built to look like an asteroid. Or
it was an asteroid and they modified it.
Yeah, it's possible. It's it's usually, you would only expect a starship to have that kind of shape.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? And I was running a little bit late. The interesting thing is there's a follow-up article behind this, Claudia.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what?
What?
They're spotting thousands of these now.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness. But then that would be a fleet.
Yeah. And we move right on along. Thank you. So the event that happened in Alaska 2 months ago, it is not settled there at all. Daily, the aftershocks are continuing. The merchants have a problem because when they put in the new windows, guess what happens? They get aftershocks. And
Oh
they're
my
strong ones,
goodness.
Claudia.
And so they keep breaking.
Yes, yes. Here it is, literally 7 weeks after the fact, and they're getting these daily now.
Oh my goodness.
So it tells me that this area is still very seismic active. I think it's the volcanoes myself. How about this down in Australia? I'm sorry, folks. I keep on hearing almost like Morse code in my headphones. It's weird. So here we are in Australia, 120 degrees, Claudia.
Wow. Well, it is the height of summer there, and every year it seems to get hotter.
This one is breaking records. I want to show folks.
Wow.
Wait till you see. There you go. Look at that.
Oh my goodness.
That's hot.
That is hot. Oh my goodness. That's a road that's melted from the heat.
They are breaking. I've had a number of subscribers. I have a lot of them in Australia, and they're writing me. It's becoming, well, obviously life-threatening.
Yeah, but they should turn down these simulators because this heat's coming off them.
Well, I don't know where it's coming from, but I can tell you it's life-threatening. It is just that bad. So I can't imagine. I can't imagine being out here in 120 degrees. I just don't know.
Well, you'll have to go into the water to cool off.
Yes. So I found this article as we finished out last year. It was talking about the continued escalation of weather patterns being altered. And I want to talk about this one. So you folks in the East Coast, Claudia, where you live, it's about to get really, really bad. This is the polar vortex. Now, normally, we would see this up here where the North Pole is, and it would do what it does typically in over in Antarctica. It becomes solid. This is not the case. This is the United States, and you can see now what's happened. The polar vortex, Claudia, has now cut off from what was happening over here in Europe. So this is why Europe was getting hammered. This is why India was getting record cold. Saudi Arabia, Yemen, all of the Middle East countries, record snowfall. Now you can see what's happened. We had what they call a bifurcated vortex, and now it has broken off. And the United States, all this is a progenitor of very cold weather coming. So I hope you got your mucklucks.
Yeah, I'm sure,
I just thought this was really interesting. They found Cleopatra's and Mark Antony's tomb.
Wow, that's interesting.
Isn't it, though?
Where is it? In Egypt?
Yes, it is in Egypt. Yes. And so how about that? I always thought.
How do they know it is their tomb?
Well, they apparently have the markings, is what the article said. And, Cleopatra, listen, I don't care what anyone says. When you think of Cleopatra, you cannot help but think of Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, because she played Cleopatra.
Oh, yes. Her leading man. Yes, very interesting. So here is something that I don't know why Christians are not maybe making more of a ruckus. So this is Mount Sinai,
Mhm.
and a lot of people don't realize that this is it right here. By the way, this is a bright day. It has remained visibly scarred ever since whatever happened there.
Yeah, well, that's when Moses met God, and I'm not surprised that they want to destroy it, because we are in that kind of a world right now where they don't want to be reminded.
Well, I don't know if it's about this. They're putting a city in.
Yes, I know. Well, they could
So,
put a city anywhere else.
well,
There's lots of space in that desert.
I don't know. I mean, have you ever seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Um,
You need to see that movie.
I've never seen the whole movie. I've only seen a little pieces of
Watch it all the way through, because the highway's coming through, darling.
Right.
And so anyway, I just thought that was rather odd. Another one bites the dust.
Yeah.
So the last one that I thought was interesting is we're going to be able to now, the transhuman movement has moved so fast. I don't doubt that they're not already in alpha testing of actually downloading your consciousness.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I've read about that, and I think it's very dangerous. How do you know that you will remain alive when your consciousness is downloaded?
I don't
Because as far as I know, you have to be inside a physical body to be alive. And so your consciousness is downloaded, but you, who you are, the spiritual being you will be dead.
Well, the Chinese are moving fast on this research. They really believe they can identify the human soul. Think about it.
But I think we're more than a soul. We're spirit beings.
Oh, I agree with you. Listen, I believe the ultimate prize is harnessing the energy, and it is an infinite energy that each spirit being possesses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you can capture the essence of that spirit, you would then be able to have an energy source, Claudia, that would have no end.
Yes, but the thing is, they are already harvesting that, because they harvest the energy whenever a human being feels trauma and fear. That's why there is so much trauma and fear on this planet, because they harvest the energy. We like batteries.
Well, I agree with that. As to who's doing the driving, it's the elusive question who they are. So, Claudia, you sent me some papers, and I was perusing through some of them, and I found this one to be interesting.
Good.
And so I thought that you bring out a very good argument here, and I thought, well, why don't you just bring it out to the audience?
Yeah, okay, thank you. So this Planet X and Y physics has failed. So here I was thinking about what physicists are ignoring, basically. And what they're ignoring most of the time is simple logic. So I say, physics is about uncovering how the universe works, and physicists are supposed to uncover the truth. But as time goes on, it becomes obvious they're not uncovering the truth. They seem to be moving away from the truth. And so, and this has occurred because they're not thinking logically. They are ready to accept something that's not logical. And that is that you can have an effect without a cause. So I put the example of, your car is perfectly fine one day, you park it, you go in the house, you come back in the morning, and your car is damaged. So what do you think? Do you think, oh, my car's just going through a crash cycle? It just did it all by itself. No, you don't. You think that someone else driving another car impacted your car. There was a crash, And that's why your car is damaged. So it took another car to damage your car. But yet, solar physicists, most physicists are quite glad to accept that the sun can have a CME, the sun can have solar flares, the sun can have a nova, because it's just going through a cycle. But that's so far from the truth. It takes another object to cause that effect. Because for every effect, there is a cause. And because they refuse to accept that, they have never looked for the cause of why the sun does these things. But the cause is right in front of our eyes. Look at that image that you sent me, where you have this huge object so close to the sun, which provokes it into having this huge CME. And you can see the object is very close to the sun because you can actually see some of the plasma in front of it. So the question is, why are plasma physicists ignoring these images? Why are they ignoring them?
Well, they seem to want to explain them away.
Yeah, they want to explain them away, and they don't want to even think. I mean, all the theories about how the sun works is the sun's going through a cycle. The sun goes through an 11-year cycle. The sun has less sunspots because that just happens. The sun has a CME because it just happens. But it's not just about the sun. It's quantum mechanics itself. It's all about probabilities, rather than the fact that when something changes, something caused that change. And when you look for the reason why it changed, you figure out how gravity really works, how energy is the driving force in the whole universe. You figure out that everything in the universe works the same way, from galaxies down to atoms. But because they refuse to think logically and they ignore observation, they haven't been able to figure that out. And they haven't even figured out that there has to be an extra force working within an atom, otherwise atoms collapse. And that's just simple logic. There would be no atoms, no life. If there was just one force, there has to be another force, which is opposite to the electrostatic force that causes particles like protons and electrons to attract each other. And there I was just showing some of the observations which they obviously ignore. They haven't looked at them. These are clearly spherical objects in the sun's corona. How do they explain these observations? Let me tell you how they explain them. They close their eyes and say, I haven't seen them.
Yeah, and I know that the argument is that this is a cavitation of, the magnetics of the sun.
They say it's a cavitation, but it's clearly not. You can see corona attaching to that object there. You can clearly see it's a three-dimensional object. Plus, a cavitation makes it's totally illogical, because you can never have a low-density area surrounded by a high-density area. The low-density area would collapse unless there's actually solid walls separating it from the rest. So the idea of cavitations is totally illogical.
That's a beautiful picture right there.
Yeah, so they are using illogical arguments to do away with these observations.
Let's see, I don't see how this could be a cavitation due to the corona of the plasma of the sun. It's too defined.
Well, a cavitation, like I said, is impossible. You need a solid barrier between a low pressure region and the high pressure region. But even then, do you know that submarines often implode when they go down towards the bottom of the ocean? Why is that? Because the pressure outside the hull is much higher than inside the hull. Even though it's got that solid barrier, the pressure from outside collapses the hull and it implodes if it gets too high. So how are you going to get a region of low pressure surrounded by a region of high pressure within the sun's corona. It's illogical.
And what we have here.
Yeah, I'm just here. I just show that it's all about energy transformations. It's all about the fact that you have a low energy object close to a high energy object, and energy transfers from the high energy to the low energy. That's why you have CMEs. That's why things happen within atoms, because they have something in the environment that is at a lower energy. So that causes an atom to release energy. That's why photons come from atoms. That's why light is emitted from atoms, because their surroundings is lower in energy, so that they acclimatize themselves to the energy of the environment. That's why it all happens. It happens all over the universe. It's about the environment.
Interesting.
So when you start really examining the observations, the images that we have, and you decide you're going to try and put it all together in a logical way, you start to figure out how the universe really works. So this idea that, I only started this in 2016. The idea that physicists have for centuries not been able to put it together is absolutely crazy. It's because the system has purposely blocked it from happening. And one of the ways that happens is because those that try are ejected from academia, like it happened with me, like it happened with James McKinney, and some of them are killed because they were getting it right.
That's just crazy. It is a fact. There are some very zealous organizations that, I agree. I think they got to Einstein. Imagine if Einstein had gone to the electric universe side of the equation.
Well, Einstein was right in one fundamental thing. He said, he actually started quantum mechanics. He started the thing about orbits and light being quantized. He was absolutely correct about that. But then when quantum mechanics moved into the crazy zone where everything's probability and things happen for no reason, he said, God does not play dice with the universe. Because playing dice is just working out probabilities, basically. And he said, no, that's not the way it works. And he was right as well. That's basically what I've been saying here.
So why is it that then that we have in science this never-ending quest of finding the unified theory?
It's like the quest for the cure for the cold and the quest for the cure for cancer. Yeah. It keeps the wheels turning. It keeps people employed doing things that gets you nowhere.
Wow. All the science, then, you think that it has been generated out of these universities in, whether it's string theory, whether it's quantum flux theory, it quite amazes me that, as you said, academia does not want to see innovative thoughts or ideas.
Yeah, there are a few fields where there's real research going on in innovation, and that's in optics, lasers basically, and nanotechnology. Mm-hmm. That's the two areas. And then in experimental physics, basically it's all experimental. There's very little advancement in the theory because they're using quantum stuff, which does not actually lead you anywhere. But they are coming up with new ways to develop the technology. And then there's materials. Material science is also advancing. So there are fields where advancement, real advancement occurs because it's allowed, and it's, that's where the powers that be want the innovation to occur because that's the technology they need.
Yeah, I mean, graphene is one of those. I mean, it's the more I study it, the more of a wonder element it is. I mean, it seems like it's nothing graphene can't do.
Yeah, and the one that is the most amazing element in the universe is actually water. Because water can exist at different densities. That's why we find water inside the earth. It's at a huge density inside the earth, so it's at another state of matter, basically. Water is like magma, except water can transition to all levels.
You're starting to sound like an alchemist, Claudia.
That's nice. That's why.
That's a compliment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why the stellar cores all have water envelopes. And the water has broken down into little droplets of water. So the droplets of water, each droplet is at a certain density, which equalizes with the electric potential of the object it's attached to. And then each water droplet is separated by a certain distance, which gives it a certain density, which is very low in the clouds, and gives it the same density as gas in an atmosphere. And that's the same as the gravitational energy of the water. So because it exists in these two different states, it can transition and it can cause the object to absorb energy from water at different levels from the atmosphere, can absorb electrons. It's basically a miraculous substance.
Interesting. Well, we'll do, in fact, next week, I'll pull some of the things up. Even in medical science now, we're finding out there's new applications for this new, wonder material.
Graphene.
Yeah, it's just, it's like some pretty far out stuff.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about graphene. It's part of the nanotechnology research.
Yep.
Basically, it's carbon in a crystal structure, and basically, I don't know very much about it, but I've heard about it.
I think it'll be fun if we look into it.
Yeah.
This one here I found really odd. I mean, so what's the story here?
I mean, I've been looking at these things in the sky. When you look at it, it looks like a long, straight line shadow in the atmosphere. That's what it looks like at first. But then if you look at some of the images, it's not a shadow because it simply has a different color to the rest of the sky. Look at that one. It's blue, whilst the red of the sky is red, yellow, orange. It's totally different color. And you can see that it's at an altitude which is higher than the little clouds that you see just below it. The clouds there's one that's sort of pinkish red and one that's blue, light blue.
Look at that.
Okay, you can see the clouds. The clouds are below that patch of sky that is blue. It's definitely a different color to the rest of the sky. So this is not a shadow. A shadow does not create different colors.
No.
A shadow would create a darker tone of the rest of the sky, which it looks like in the other image, but definitely not in this one. But the fact that it's a different color in this one, that tells me exactly what it is. And you can see at the boundary that it seems to be at exactly the same altitude as the rest of the sky. There is no difference in height, even though the substance itself looks different. So that tells me what it is. It has to be a screen. It's a screen. These colors all being projected onto a screen. They're using the sky as a screen. It's a simulation.
Yeah, I was just looking at this cloud here. I mean, that's an odd looking cloud.
Yeah, and you see that the pink and
Yeah.
the blue clouds, those are real clouds. They at a lower altitude. They're not
Mm-hmm.
projections, but you can see they different colors because they are luminescent clouds. They're emitting light in those colors because they, due to the Planet X system, these clouds are coming in. Some of them are emitting these colors of light as they absorb electrons, because the electrons release some of the energy as they settle into an energy level for the water molecules. They have to release some of the energy to have the proper energy for that that energy level in the atom. So that this is what happened, and this is the image that you sent me, which clearly shows that they are using the sky as a screen. That's not a natural sky. That can only be produced through a holographic projection. They projected this pattern onto the sky. So that patch, and you can see that dark patch there. You can also see the triangular shape, and that's because of the perspective of it disappearing in the distance. So we're looking from the side to a long distance away. And so the sky gets, or that patch gets smaller and smaller as it disappears in the distance. So that's clearly the perspective that we are getting from our position. And we're looking at the sky, and the sky, this pattern is not natural.
It's
definitely not natural.
This was taken in Michigan. Yeah, this was taken in Michigan 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's still one of the most bizarre pictures of clouds I have ever seen, Claudia. It's just
amazing. So you say this was taken in Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
Who took it?
It was a subscriber. Yeah, I was trying to think. It's been a couple of years ago, and she took it. She said it was a very bizarre sight. I said,
it is, but you see, it tells us the truth of what's really going on. It explains why we're getting these patterns in the sky that are different color to the rest of the sky. It explains it perfectly. I mean, I could already see it from that pattern there, but this just puts it all together. It adds to the evidence. And it means that it's a project. And what happens is it's a malfunction, actually.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So this is a malfunction. Something didn't go right, but you can see the colors are pink and blue. Now, we're not supposed to have pink clouds, but they were obviously trying to produce pink clouds in the sky with this pattern. And that tells me that they are producing pink clouds to hide the fact that there are real pink clouds in the sky. Okay. So, and that's why the colors in the other pictures were yellow and orange and red and pink. It was because there were clouds of that color in the sky, I believe. But that patch, that means that the projector that was making that layer, the orange and red layer, did not project onto that part. So that's a malfunction. The blue seems to be the background color. Yeah. So that's something that projects the blue maybe from above, and then from below maybe the other colors, the other layer. I always love
this turquoise. I mean,
yeah.
Like that is so far out. We have something too, Claudia, that a subscriber sent in to us that I thought you might find. Let me pull it up. She works really hard. Give me 1 second. She sends a lot in, and I saw this one, and let's see, here we go. Yeah. So I'm going to share this with everybody. So this was a year ago. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Mexico webcam. Here's our sun. Now look at this a year ago.
Wow.
So there's an obvious, I saw a huge increase in the size of this cloud. I mean, the sun, or what I guess they're saying is our sun. Do you see that as well?
Yes.
I mean, look
definitely
at
looks
this.
larger.
I
Definitely
mean,
does.
and she got them up just perfect.
Mm.
And you can see something is amiss. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of mess when you use simulators, sun
Yes.
simulators to replace the sun, basically. There is a lot. It's surprising that not many people notice that the sun is not perfectly round as it's supposed to be or yellow anymore. I mean, it's been
Ah,
so long that it could be that some people have never seen the real sun anymore.
it's very interesting.
Because I think, when was it? 1998. I picked up images that showed that some simulators were out already.
I've had people tell me that, and I happen to agree that our sun has changed colors.
Mhm.
I do.
Mm.
So here's another one of your papers. I found this
Yes.
one interesting. So this is in Siberia, is it?
Yes, it is. And apparently this mountain broke apart, and there was just pieces that came down this mountain. Um, it was so strange. And the strangest thing is that locals that went to the area felt the rocks and they felt warm.
Felt warm.
They felt warm. They warmed their hands on these rocks.
Well, now that's odd.
Yeah, but you see, that shows that energy was, well, first of all, these things don't just happen, like I said before.
No.
You don't expect a mountain to suddenly just fall apart. And I got it from Secure Team 10, and of course they will think that it was a UFO. But a UFO would have used some kind of weapon to break up, and there should be signs of things being artificially, broken. But it looks like the mountain just split apart.
You know what? When I look at this, Claudia, I'm getting the idea of cavitation again, but inside. I mean, I think that there's massive changes taking place under the mantle.
It is. And, the articles that I wrote about the pole shift shows that the pole is moving. One is moving down further south from northern Canada, and the other one is moving towards Siberia. That's exactly the region where this is occurring.
Yeah.
And I would expect that there is a lot of upheaval in the core in those regions, and that would cause matter creation events. It will cause expansion from the bottom. And if the Earth's crust is expanding, then you're going to expect things like this to happen, where suddenly a mountain cannot stay together anymore and it breaks.
And by the way, I happen to be a believer that I think our planet is expanding. I think there's evidence of it. I happen to think personally, Claudia, we are already in the midst of the magnetic pole flip.
Yeah, except that I think it's a lot more serious than a pole flip, Wayne.
You think it would be actually with the axis?
No, I think from what I've discovered about the core, and it shows there, the core has matter creation events. It creates more matter out of photon energy. Out of its own energy, it creates matter. So it has to be liquid as well. It's plasma. The plasma in the core, it's not a solid core, it's plasma. So what I think has caused all this is the pole, the North Pole. All the magnetic field in all the layers has to be aligned to the core. And the magnetic field in the core is due to circulation of the plasma in the core, which creates currents. And it tends to be stable because everything keeps itself in the right position, the right energy level, and so on. But some of these objects that come in, as they come in, they cause a repelling force on the material they interact with. So a large object can interact with the core, and as it comes in, because its gravitational energy is so low, it causes a repelling force. So it causes a hollow in the core. And what that happens is it starts to divide the core. If it came in close to the North Pole, it starts to divide that region of the core into two. And then the circulation separates. Instead of one current, you get two currents. And now you get two North Poles. And once two North Poles form, they're going to repel each other. So the core starts splitting.
So you would have a dipole that would then become a quadrupole?
Yes, except it hasn't yet because it hasn't split at the bottom. It's two North Poles and one South Pole still, but the North Poles would repel. So even actually, if the object then moves away after a while, it could be that it started the core splitting. And I think it's natural for cores to split, say in stars, where stars can fission into two stars. I don't think it happens very often with planets, but it is possible for cores to split. I mean, that's why galaxies, they break off pieces of themselves and they become another piece. That's why stars, you get a huge globular cluster, and it breaks into small pieces. That starts fissioning into small pieces. I don't think it happens with planets once the solid crust is formed. But in this case, it's possible that the Earth's core is splitting.
Well, let me add, when we get onto that, that's an interesting point. Two things. I think of number one, I think of the Mid-Atlantic anomaly, which is, to me, it's another pole. I know that there would be some pushback on that, but I think that that's what's happened. Now,
well, it's actually a region of low intensity magnetic field. So I don't think it is another pole. I think it's a region where there is a magnetic anomaly. And you write that it means that there is something not right. Wherever we find an anomaly, we should realize that it has to do with the Earth's core. It all starts with the core. It's the core that starts everything regarding our magnetic field. So when things change regarding the magnetic field, we have to realize that something's changing at the level of the Earth's core. And it's being affected by the Planet X objects. The larger ones that come to Earth interact directly with the core.
So when we begin to look at the implications of the planet, when the 8.0 hit Mexico last year, we know that it cracked the plate. I mean, now we have this part which kind of reminds me of what's happening to Africa with the mid-African continental drift that's taking place. Madagascar is going to go bye-bye.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get this new concave coming off Africa. The question, I guess, I'm keep on looking at this, Claudia, is it looks like it's all building up.
Yes.
And yeah, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, there are two things that seem to be happening. I mean, when I looked at the core, like I said, it started shifting the North Pole between 1904 and 1948. So something happened just at least sometime before 1948. And it means that a whole lot of Planet X objects started coming to the Earth then, started affecting the Earth, started affecting the core of the Earth. And if they started something with the core, you don't even need more of these objects coming in because it will be an accelerating effect. You cannot fix the core. It just gets worse and worse and worse until the planet breaks, basically. I would know when, how, but we also have evidence that there are more and more of these objects coming in because we have more and more of these red clouds, pink clouds, different colored clouds, which they are trying to hide by producing, strange colored skies anyway, but the clouds are there. They are real. They are absorbing energy. So things, to me, it looks like we at the point where I don't know why. I don't know why we haven't had huge cataclysms yet.
Oh, I think we're heading for one.
That's the thing. I think it's very, very likely that any moment now we'll start having huge earthquakes, huge volcanic eruptions. And the most dangerous zone is actually close to the North Pole, because that's where the problem seems to be the greatest. And that means right here, Siberia,
yeah,
and the northern United States is in the real danger zone. And Yellowstone will be filling up, its reservoir will be filling up, because as you get these matter creation events from the core, because the core is unstable, the magma will feed into Yellowstone. And what will happen is eventually it's going to erupt.
I was just reading some of the comments on there. When you were talking about the magnetic drifting on this, I can't help but not think that when we started our atomic bomb testing, particularly when you realize there's been over 2,057 atomic H-bombs as well exploded in the Earth. I can't help but the cause and effect.
Yeah, I'm sure it had an effect. Yes.
Yeah. They keep telling us that no, the Earth is able to absorb it. I don't think the Earth can absorb CERN. That's just me.
Yeah. I don't think. I mean, I think it had an effect. It had an effect on the crust. It started breaking up the crust. Definitely, it had an effect on the crust. But I don't think it would have affected the core. The core is affected by these objects. When they are large, when they're about the same size as the Earth, a little larger than the Earth, the larger ones don't interact with Earth. The ones that are the same size as the sun or larger can only get material from the sun. That's one of the things I found out. They have no effect on the Earth whatsoever. But that's all because of energy levels and the way the universe works and gravity works. But these ones that are about the same size as the Earth, they don't interact with the atmosphere. They interact directly with the core because that's the energy level. And so as they come in, they actually cause the core to move away from them. They repel the core first, then they start absorbing energy, and then the core reacts and explodes. Matter creation event, volcanic eruption. Exactly the same thing as we saw happening with the sun. They cause the CMEs that way. And sometimes you can see as the object approaches the sun, you can see the chromosphere moving away from the object to the opposite direction. And that's because the object is low in gravitational energy and it repels that layer of the chromosphere. And then as the object gains energy, the core, the chromosphere comes back and explodes in a CME.
I have a sense that we're going to be coming back on one of our Monday night programs talking about the eruption of new volcanoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, definitely. And you will get new volcanoes forming.
I think we are. I think we're seeing some of that now.
Yeah.
Well, Claudia, another hour has come and gone. It's been fascinating. I have some notes that I'm actually going to look up some things because it just got me to thinking. And so you see, as the teacher, you did a very good job because I think us and, 400 plus of our friends all learned something as well.
I hope so.
I
You
hope
know,
so.
as a
Yeah.
teacher, I love to teach.
You do, and it shows, and
Thank you.
you're really exceptional at it. And I thank you, Claudia. So anything you have on your channel this week? I know you do a
Yeah.
lot of posting.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm really trying to get the last of my little questions answered so I can have the whole picture so I can put my book together. And it's going to be more than one book because I've started thinking a little bit about it. And I wrote that one about physicists getting it wrong because I wanted that one as an introduction.
Yeah, I think it's so appropriate. I think I'm
Mm.
glad to see an academic, a scientist come in and say, "Hey, guys, gals, let's rethink this."
Yeah, I mean, I understand why a lot of people refuse to acknowledge the images because their lives would be in danger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've
So you
seen
have to
that.
think of that. But, I just wanted to tell those who, may come across my book or something, make them think, cause and effect, cause and effect. If I start thinking cause and effect, maybe I'll figure out more things about my research.
You see, I love the fact cause and effect.
Yes.
That's what it is. All right. Well, I'm going to go out and get ready to shovel snow. It hasn't started snowing yet. Just looking on that, but we are. So you're going to be cold this week. Keep warm. Give Scott my
Thank you,
best.
Wayne. I will.
And do keep warm because, folks, listen, Claudia come from, there were animals now in the Great Plains out there in Africa.
Yeah, well, not quite like that,
Well,
but I mean, I was used to sleeping with my windows open all the time, even in winter. I never had a heater on in my bedroom in South Africa. I had a heater in the bathroom. That's all.
Well, I sleep with a window even in winter with a fan. So, but that's just me.
I mean, I have a fan on, but if I open the window, I freeze within a few seconds.
Acclamation, isn't it? Yes, it is. Claudia, your delight. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to thank all of y'all for stopping by. I mean, all the moderators and everyone else. There's so many of you. Thank you. Hit the like button. Go over there. And if you're not a subscriber of Dr. Albers, do it. And put the alert on because YouTube, your alert buttons don't work. Anyway, that's just
Yes,
we all know that. So, well, Claudia, have a great week. Give Scott my best.
You too, Wayne.
And thank you.
I will.
Another great week, Claudia. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. It was fun.
It was fun. Everyone, be good to yourselves. If you're going to be shoveling snow, do it with a smile and do it slowly. Claudia, much love to you, my dear. Thank you for everyone coming here. We see y'all next week then. Bye-bye, everyone.